We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world. We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 131. This is from the Rebirth line from DC Comics, written by Chip Zdarsky, pencils by Mike Hawthorne, Adriano De Benedetto on inks, Tomeu Mori colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Jorge Jimenez did the cover, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. Cover's okay, doesn't really do much for me. Does really kind of hint at what's going on in the book, but could use some action. So this is part one of the Batman of Gotham. Some street junkies take Batman's utility belt as he wakes up in what seems to be another universe. A universe where he hallucinates a skeletal Jim Gordon, which has a mustache. Haha, cause that's funny, right? Funny, haha, haha, funny. Dead people with mustaches, that's hilarious. No disrespect to the characters at all. No, none here. So Batman figures out that he's probably in another universe. His costume is pretty well torn up. His brownstone is empty and has been for years apparently. But he manages to find a coat somewhere, and then he hears somebody calling for help, and it turns out that there's this guy called Judge Dent going around, and he is actually Harvey Dent, supposedly, and half his face is painted instead of disfigured, and he goes around judging people to be sane or insane. And of course, Bruce jumps right in and fights the guy and some cops, and Firefly shows up to set a place on fire so Batman can rescue someone and fight Dent some more. But don't worry, Batman is saved by this woman with the side of her head shaved. She's got a mohawk. That's how cool she is. You can always tell in modern comics when a woman is tough, she's got the sides of her head shaved. She's super tough when she has a mohawk. Word gets to Selina Kyle through somebody named Red Mask, who is obviously going to be the villain of this, that Bruce Wayne is still alive, and we're left with a cliffhanger ending where Batman figures out that he's in a universe that has no Batman. The story's okay. I do like multiverse stories occasionally, so this wasn't too bad. The fact that the changes to the character of Two-Face were pretty interesting, but it's a little predictable, and it's always, you know, the cops are corrupt and evil, and Batman's gotta go stop them, blah blah blah. It's kind of predictable. It's better than the Failsafe storyline, so I guess there's that. The backup story is called The Toy Box Part 1, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Miguel Mendoza, colors by Roman Stevens, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor. So John and Tim are hanging out in, I kid you not, the Batacombs underneath Gotham, and Tim is convinced that Batman's not dead because, well, nobody stays dead in comic books, and they have a little spat, really boring, and then we are introduced to a guy named Cut Up who is trying to pretend he's the Joker, and he kidnaps some people, but Nightwing swoops in to stop him, and Tim shows up for an assist. They have a little boring little heart-to-heart, and they confirm that, yeah, Batman's not dead through lots of talking. And it turns out that the gun that was used by Failsafe was created by Toyman. That's probably the most interesting part of this boring little backup, and that there might be some kind of clues as to what happened. Everybody thinks Toyman's dead. Obviously he's not, but that's probably the most important bit out of the backup. It at least ties into the main storyline, so I guess there's something there, but it was mostly just a bunch of blathering that could have been summed up in 2 pages. But the main story art I thought was definitely better than the backup. The backup's not bad, it's just faces look a little weird, and every now and then people get anime mouth. I think the artist probably needs a little bit more work on anatomy instead of everything looking like posed action figures, but I see the potential here. The main story did have better art though, and I think that it's pretty solid actually. So overall, was it worth $5? No, most modern comics aren't, but this was at least a much better story than the Failsafe one, which I absolutely detested. Zdarsky is still treating this like superheroes don't need secret identities, because why bother wearing a mask? Everybody just should know who you are and be able to target you. So again, modern writers do not understand the purpose of the secret identity, but this was an improvement over the Failsafe stories, so if you find it for $3 or $4, it might be okay. We'll see how more of the storyline progresses, but I'm still very hesitant to actually recommend this. I'd say grab it for $2. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods, and as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 132. This is from the Rebirth line from DC Comics. This is part 2 of the Batman of Gotham. Written by Chip Zdarsky, pencils by Mike Hawthorne, Adriano De Benedetto inks, colors were by Tomeu Mori, letters by Clayton Cowles, Jorge Ramirez did the cover, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. Cover's really boring. It does kind of relate to what's going on, but there's no action. It's just Selena Kyle, and oh boy, look, you have to point out that it's Batman and Catwoman in the reflection because we didn't know that, because yeah, so assuming we're all dumb, I guess. But it's well done, it's just pointless pinup. So Red Mask is looking for Bruce Wayne and meeting with Harvey Dent, telling him to go out and get him. It turns out that the stupid skeleton with a mustache version of Jim Gordon may be induced by something called Crane Brain. What they're doing is Arkham apparently runs Gotham City and they're pumping a mild form of fear gas out into the city, and the only way to avoid it is to take these pills. Yes, street drugs, that'll help. And it turns out that somebody named Halliday is running what used to be Wayne Tower in the other universe, and Batman decides to infiltrate, where he runs into Selena, who recognizes him. Apparently in this universe, Bruce Wayne gave up all his money to be a social worker, and he's supposedly dead now. And because he didn't bother to wear a mask last issue, different version of Punchline and Killer Croc show up and assist Catwoman in attempting to apprehend Batman. Alfred Pennyworth is there though, and he seems to recognize Batman. But everybody's juiced up on Venom, including the street cops, so everybody beats the crap out of Batman, more or less. And it turns out Halliday may have ties to a villain in Batman's universe. It was okay, not great, but it lacks depth. It's just a very straightforward story, with Bruce Wayne not even bothering to try and hide who he is. And he constantly talks about getting old. He's like 35, but he's been doing that throughout all of the Failsafe story and this one. Maybe they're gonna retire Bruce Wayne, I don't know. There's a lot of like jibber jabber in here that's unnecessary. He talks about missing his boys, which are the Robins, and he talks about getting old. It's a bunch of pointless narration that doesn't actually further anything, especially when he's like 35. If he was like 60 or 50, okay, I could understand that, but 35, he's not even halfway through his life by the average American age, so whatever. But it was an okay story, just not my favorite. Then we have the backup story, part 2 of the Toy Box, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Miguel Mendoza, colors by Roman Stevens, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor. We learned that John Kent fought a giant dinosaur robot thing that Toyman built, and Toyman was running around with this weird pistol thing that was apparently made with multiversal energy, and he was using it to turn people into toys, but it was also displacing people to an alternate universe. And that is the crux of what Tim Drake and Mr. Terrific figure out, so that they can try and track Batman down. And they've built this little costume thing that'll let Tim beam into multiverses and track people down, and he manages to start doing that after we get a pointless page of him making out with his boyfriend and talking about video games as if it's 1990. I thought this could have been summed up in 3 pages, but the pointless talking and recap of the Toyman thing that didn't need to happen, that could have been summed up in a dialogue box, were just padding. There's a lot of padding in this book, but again, it's better than the Failsafe storyline. Is it worth $5? Absolutely not. This is a $2 book on its best day. Backup story is almost entirely fluff, could have been summed up in a significantly shorter span of time, and the main story suffers from some of the same padding. And there's some weird elements here that really don't seem like Chip Zdarsky either has a very good grasp on Batman, or he just wants to retire Bruce Wayne. I don't know. The book just doesn't really work for me. So I'll recommend it if you can find it very cheap. Beyond that, it's not really holding my interest. The art's not bad on both stories. They kind of clash on styles. The first story is significantly darker in tone and physical appearance, and the second one is a lot brighter with brighter colors, and it really contrasts pretty sharply, not just with the art styles, but in tone. So I really hate the backup story things, but at least this one does tie into the main narrative. So grab it cheap if you want to read this storyline, but it's not that memorable. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods, and as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman 133. This is from DC Comics Rebirth line, and this is part 3 of the Batman of Gotham. Written by Chip Zdarsky, pencils by Mike Hawthorne, inks by Adriano De Benedetto, colors by Tomeu Mori, Clayton Cowles did the letters, Jorge Ramirez did the cover, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. Cover's good, it's got some action to it, even though there's like a paunchy middle-aged Alfred holding a sword to Batman. That does not appear in the book because he shows up with a shotgun, which is significantly different. So Batman does a little grave robbing and steals his own corpse because why not? He wanted to find out how Bruce Wayne died in this universe, and it turns out it was some sort of poisoning. And he also starts running around in costume. We don't know where he gets the costume or how he made it. Just go with it. There's not a lot of important details here, I guess. Well, he fights a Riddler who is wearing red because it's a different universe and whatever. And we find out Red Mask is doing experiments, including on kids, and Selina doesn't like that, so he punches her in the face. Now, that sequence where they fight, sort of, not really, because Catwoman doesn't fight back at all. Red Mask, he has a really weird positioning, and that's one of the problems I have with this artist, is that some of the sequences, especially fight scenes, look like they're staged with action figures. Like, that's what he used to set up a scene and then draw that. But it just looks a little unnatural, and he has very weirdly narrow hips. So thanks to Batman's new sidekick slash Black Savior, Batman also fights Harvey again and decides to have a little team up with Catwoman or something. I don't know. Then they're gonna go underground next issue, I guess. Whatever, it's stupid. Then there's a backup story, The Toy Box Part 3, written by Chip Zdarsky. Miguel Mendoza was the artist, Roman Stevens colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor. Robin shows up in the alternate universe and immediately is confronted by Toyman. He finds a bunch of people that are from his home universe and he gives them the discs, but has to fight a toy version of Toyman who apparently is dissecting people. But this is Robin's best lead to get Bruce back, so he's got to take everybody back to Mr. Terrific and see what happens from there. Overall, the Robin story was probably the best one. There's still a lot of yammering in here, a lot of pointless dialogue in both stories, and I don't know if Chip Zdarsky thinks that's furthering the plot, but it's not. It's incredibly distracting, and it's weird dialogue too. Like, the caption boxes have Robin whining about how he doesn't kill people because he's still a hero, and he says, but when I look Bruce in the eye again, I want him to know that I never faltered. Who talks like this? It's unnatural dialogue, and it's just filler space. It would have been much more interesting to have a silent panel. It's implied by him not killing people that he's sticking to the no killing code, which I maintain is pretty ludicrous for characters like street level vigilantes. The story's okay. It's not great. It jumps around a little bit. I don't know how much time has passed between this issue and last issue, but it's not something I'm gonna reread anytime soon. Like I said, this time the backup story was the best of the two. The main story was okay. It's just not exciting. It's not $5 good. Grab it out of a bargain bin if you're interested in reading this storyline, but as a standalone, it's gonna make no sense either. This is definitely written toward the trade, and it's only passably okay. So not a strong recommendation. I'm not real interested in it. It's fairly forgettable. So that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 134. This is part of DC's Rebirth line. This issue is part 4 of the Batman of Gotham. Written by Chip Zdarsky, pencils by Mike Hawthorne, inks by Adriano De Benedetto, Tomeu Mori on colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Jorge Ramirez did the cover, Dave Walgo's associate editor, Ben Abernathy editor. This is probably the weakest cover. It looks like a speed racer villain stole a costume from Gotchaman, and I just thought it was lazy looking. There's nothing real exciting there. So Batman's in the caverns underneath Gotham, and we learn who Red Mask is, and it was pretty predictable. We also learned that Red Mask has been experimenting on heroes and villains alike, and he's got a bunch of them locked up down there, and he's going to try and release them. He's up to some shenanigans to try and capture a feeling he got when he glimpsed into the multiverse. So of course Batman has to fight the most obnoxious Bat character after Clown Hunter, and that's Ghostmaker. Maker. And of course it's a Venomized Ghost Maker, because why not? Let's just get completely ridiculous. He does meet a experimented on Superman, so he just does the Batman voice and Superman gets scared and runs away. I guess that makes total sense somehow. Whatever. Meanwhile, part of the plan is to release this Crimson Mist into the city, and Batman's shaved head sidekick has to go round him up, and of course they fight the cops. But Batman has to shut down the flow of the Crimson Mist and gets severely injured in the process, like life-altering move, which is kind of downplayed. That should have been a much more dramatic moment. And we're left with a cliffhanger ending. Then we go over to the backup story, which is part 4 of The Toy Box, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Miguel Mendoza, Roman Stevens on colors, Clayton Cowles letters, Dave Walgo's editor. Robin gets a stupid new costume that is really gaudy and is not going to age well, as Mr. Terrific comes up with some redesigns and is able to track down what universe that Batman got sent to by Failsafe with the help of Toyman. Superman is filling in for Batman, but nobody has seen the Failsafe robot in a while. And since they're on a time constraint and they know Batman's probably in trouble, Robin has to get to him right away, so he takes a side trek to visit his mommy in the other universe, because that's heroic. Nothing like spending a couple hours with your mom when you're supposed to be out trying to save your mentor from whatever nightmare fuel he's managed to wander into this time. So yep, it's time to go see mommy. So he hangs out with his mom for a while and then decides to go set off on this whatever adventure thing he's supposed to be doing. I think I'm done. This issue was okay as far as the story goes. It's very predictable, paint by numbers, comic cliches. Everybody knows who Batman is because he can't keep that a secret apparently. And the villain has to reveal his master plan. World's greatest detective couldn't figure it out. Somebody had to tell it to him. And it was predictable and kind of boring. I thought this was kind of a lazy issue. The twist with basically handicapping Batman permanently is not that big of a twist. It's kind of lazy. And I wonder how long that's going to last. Because I get the impression they're trying to retire Bruce Wayne because DC has no idea what they're doing. And the backup story was just completely ridiculous, with Robin visiting his multiversal mom for some reason. I guess they're just padding out the story. I saw nothing of value here. This is maybe a dollar bin book, but only if you're going to read the whole thing, and quite honestly, I'm pretty bored with it. It's not very deep, it's not very interesting, and I'm not really willing to spend another $5 on this series. So I'm going to drop this one, I think. The art's okay. There was some panels in this one that looked pretty weak, but some pretty decent ones too. The backup story art was okay. Again, they didn't really match up real well. One's brighter than the other, but it just really didn't come together at all. So I think I'm done with the regular Batman book for a while until there's a new creative team on it. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Batman issue 135, which is legacy number 900. So it's an oversized issue with a lot happening. This is also the conclusion of the Batman of Gotham, written by Chip Zdarsky, pencils by Mike Hawthorne, Jorge Jimenez, and Michael Janin, colors by Adriano De Benedetto, Jorge Jimenez, and Michael Janin, inks by Adriano De Benedetto, Jorge Jimenez, and Michael Janin, colors by Tomeu Mori and Romulo Fajardo Jr., letters by Clayton Cowles, cover by Jorge Jimenez. Cover's actually really good, still the stupid action lines and it looks like a crappy manga, but it's at least dynamic and adventurous and does relate to what's going on in the book. So Red Mask unleashed these flying Batmen, which are very similar to Kirk Langstrom's Man-Bat. Bruce Wayne, however, is dealing with the loss of a limb, and Alfred decides to open the doors to try and help people out that are outside trying to avoid the toxic mist. We learned what Red Mask is really doing is channeling multiversal energies, trying to become the Joker, and instead we learn that he is in fact just creating them. So he decides to go jumping through the multiverse, and Batman goes after him. He has to have a little heart-to-heart with Alfred and have some touching moments there and deal with Catwoman, etc. So he jumps through the multiverse and we see him encounter very briefly several different versions of himself, including the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman, the Vampire Joker, and of course course, glimpses of like 1960s and Gotham by Gaslight, the animated series, etc. But mainly the big ones are the Batman from Batman Beyond, where he gets some help on how to get home. And of course, we see like glimpses of Kingdom Come and other ones like that. He also gets a utility belt from the 1966 Batman, which does come in handy later on. And there's actually a really funny joke about that. But the important thing is that when he meets Frank Miller's Dark Knight Batman, he gets a new uniform, and he also gets a replacement limb. So he ends up fighting Red Mask in a universe all its own, and of course we get a reunion with the main timeline and how he's gonna get home. Overall, parts of it were okay. It's nice to see Batman doing superhero stuff and adventuring instead of just sitting around feeling sorry for himself and pining over Catwoman and whatever other interpersonal problems Tom King has in his life. So that was nice, but overall the story isn't that compelling. It's very much action without the substance. There's no real story here. And the fact that they replaced one of his limbs is bizarre. It was very Army of Darkness, where apparently they're just never going to talk about the fact that Bruce Wayne lost a limb somehow. And if he ever gets it back, how are they going to explain that? It kind of detracts from Batman being a normal mortal too, because the hand has special abilities. So I think that's a little detrimental, and they're attempting to reinvent Batman a little bit, and they're constantly talking about how he's feeling old. The guy's like 35, so that's a bit stupid. Unless, of course, they're going to replace Bruce Wayne again, which has been done before, and in some cases good, some cases not. But I really hope they don't do that, because I think that's intellectually lazy and it's bad storytelling. Let's face it, most people want to read about the adventures of Bruce Wayne as Batman. They don't want to sit around and listen to him whine about how he's getting older. That's stupid. He doesn't have to age. It's a comic book. But the pros are that this is a pretty action-packed storyline. It was just a little silly with him losing a limb and replacing it with a robot hand for an indeterminate amount of time. So hopefully they resolve that really quickly, because it's kind of stupid. And it's really lazy storytelling, because now he has an ultimate MacGuffin to get out of everything. But there were elements that were pretty solid in here. I just wish it wasn't a $7 book. I don't think it was worth anywhere near that. The story could have been told in a much different way that was a little bit more substantive and had a little bit more impact. So we'll see where this goes, but I'm probably dropping the title. It just didn't do anything for me. I wouldn't have even picked up this issue, except I forgot I ordered it. And I'm not sticking my comic shop with a book that's $7 that I ordered, even though I really didn't like most of the storyline. This issue is easily the best one in the storyline. So unfortunately, I'm not going to recommend this unless you get it out of a bargain bin for a couple of bucks. I don't think it's that compelling. I think that there were too many negatives that are not justifying the cost, and the positives are few and far between. The art's not bad though, except for the usual manga anime influences that I hate. The art's actually pretty solid through most of the book, and you can tell they're trying to copy other styles as well to match the areas. I recommend this unless you get it out of a bargain bin for a couple of bucks. I don't think it's that compelling. I think that there were too many negatives that are not justifying the cost, and the positives are few and far between. The art's not bad though, except for the usual manga anime influences that I hate. The art's actually pretty solid through most of the book, and you can tell they're trying to copy other styles as well to match the areas. I recommend this unless you get it out of a bargain bin for a couple of bucks. I don't think it's that compelling. I think that there were too many negatives that are not justifying the cost, and the